Start by cutting out all the pattern details. Remember to follow the straight grain. This fabric turned out to be wider than I expected, so I am placing my pattern panels in a different way compared to the pattern layout in the tutorial file. For the pocket panels, you can use the same fabric you have for the skirt, or you can use a lining. In my case, my fabric is very crinkled and I don't think it's a good idea to put inside crinkle pockets. That's why I am steaming and trying to flatten out this fabric. It actually wasn't that easy. Remember to snip the notches at the pocket bags and also at the skirt panel side seams. It got so late and I was so tired that I forgot to turn on the microphone. I don't remember exactly what was I saying, but I remember I was feeling like this fabric combination might be along the lines of being a hit or a miss, but I actually really liked how this combination turned out after I cut out the pattern details. I am back. I'm going to use a sewing machine and a serger. Since the top part is made of stretch jersey fabric, I am going to use the serger for the shoulder seams and side seams. If you don't have a serger, no worries. I have linked down a video where I show a few sewing machine stitches that you could use instead. For the top's neckline and armholes, I'm going to use a sewing machine because then it will be easier to get smooth curved lines. As some of you might already know that the sewing machine straight stitch isn't really elastic. In practice, it does have some stretch, but it also easily tears. I can recommend to use this sort of a lighting shaped stitch. I don't know what's the proper name for it, and it looks almost straight. It's quite short, can you see it? And it does have more stretch compared to the regular straight stitch. In case if your sewing machine doesn't have a stitch like this, you can also use a narrow zigzag stitch. It will certainly have a bit more stretch compared to the regular straight stitch. Since the skirt is made out of woven fabric, there I will use sewing machine straight stitch and a serger to neaten the seams. Again, if you don't have a serger, simply use sewing machine zigzag stitch to neaten the seams. Start by laying the top's back panel with the front panel's right sides together. Pin the shoulder seams and also pin the side seams. Stitch the shoulder seams and side seams either with a serger or with those sewing machine special stitches. Repeat these steps with the top's inner layer as well. If you are using a serger, be extremely careful to take out the pins before you are stitching, otherwise it's a huge safety issue. Take the top's outer layer and press the seams towards the back panel. When you take the top's inner layer, press the seams in the opposite direction. This way the seams will not be too thick when the top will be finished. Take one of the top's layers and flip it from the inside out. Match both layers with the right sides facing each other. Start by matching the shoulder seams and then match the middle pin around the neckline. Stitch around the neckline 1 cm apart from the edge. When stitching in the shoulder area, make sure that the shoulder seam allowances are laying in opposite directions. turn the inner layer from the inside out. Find the neckline seam allowance. You will need to understitch the seam allowance to the inner layer. Start from the V-neck area and make sure that the seam allowance is constantly towards the inner layer. Make the stitch 1 to 2 mm apart from the previously made seam. I will already make a small cut in the seam allowance at the V-neck. This will help me to easier access the seam allowance and lay it towards that inner layer. I felt it is easier to access the seam if I take off the bobbin box. Before you start stitching, make sure that everything is smooth and flat. I find it easier to do this step on the right side of the garment because then I can easier see the distance from the previously made stitch. But for some people it is actually easier to work from the wrong side of the garment because then you can surely control that the seam allowance is towards the inner layer. Since I have a very light fabric that is slightly transparent, I don't like how visible is the seam allowance. That's why I am trimming 1/2 of one layer of the seam allowance. This way the seam allowance, it still will be visible, but it will kinda gradually disappear. This also works magic when you have a heavier fabric and the seam allowance is making the edge look bulky. I think it looks much better now. Make a few trims in the seam allowance where the neckline is more curved. Be very careful because sometimes knit fabrics can start to tear. That's why don't make them too deep and don't make them too many. I would say 3 to 4 should be enough because these lines aren't too curved. I did around 4 to 6 cuts in the front and in the back neckline. Flip the top in a way that the right side is towards outside and press the neckline. When pressing from the inside, make sure that you can see a tiny bit of the outer panel. I'm using that wood plank to cool down the seams. If I move the seams while they are hot, the shape isn't as permanent. When it comes to the armholes, I don't cook any burritos. Instead, I fold the raw edges towards inside. Then I pin them together. You don't have to be extremely precise because we will repin anyways. In other words, right now you have to pin the edge of the armholes in a way how it will look finished. Now go in between those two layers and find those two raw edges. This is where we need to stitch together both armholes. Step by step, take out those pins that you previously put in. Take one pin out and put it from the inside layer so the top's right sides are facing each other. I know the top right now it looks kind of messy because the straps are creating like a tube and it is not possible to lay the top flat. But trust me, once we will stitch around the armholes, you will flip the top from the inside out and it will look very beautiful. Make sure that you are matching the shoulder seams and the side seams. Don't rush while you are stitching the armholes. Make sure that you are stitching together only 2 layers. It could happen that some of the fabric that is inside the top might get in the way. Be very careful of that. It shouldn't be an issue for this top, but sometimes when the straps are narrower, it can get difficult to finish the stitch in one go. If that's your case, simply stop stitching and then turn the armhole towards the other side and stitch in the other direction. Of course, repeat these steps with the other side as well. Let's check out how the armhole looks. Simply pull the top in a way that it starts to lay flat. Similarly, as for the neckline, we should understitch the armholes, but in this case you won't be able to go fully around them because the straps are too narrow. Something is better than nothing, so try to understitch at least the areas which you can access. Here as well, make a stitch next to the previously made seam and make sure that the seam allowance is towards the inner layer. Repeat this step for both armholes. I will work with the armholes the same way I was working with the neckline. First, I will cut off half of the seam allowance for only one layer. Then I will make a few trims in the seam allowance where the armhole is more curved. Flip the top to the right side and press around the armholes. To make it more convenient to attach the skirt to the top part, I will hand stitch the lower edge of the top, both layers together. I start by flattening the top and then pinning both layers together. I have this issue with this fabric that it's rolling so much, like it's totally normal, but not all fabrics do this thing. So I have to really work with that edge before I hand stitch it. I use a regular needle with another colored thread to fix these layers together with each other. I would recommend to use a thread that has more contrast to the color because later we will need to take it out. I also make big loops because we need to keep the elasticity of the edge of this top. Take the skirt panel and find the notches. Lay the pocket bag with the right sides facing with the skirt panel and match the notches. Pin along the side seam. Stitch 1 cm apart from the edge. Repeat this step with the other skirt panel as well. So in total you have to stitch 4 pocket bags. Knit in this area where you have joined the pocket bags. Press the seam allowance towards the pocket bag. Somehow with this skirt I felt it is easier to press on the right side of the skirt. Lay both skirt panels with the right sides facing each other. Pin starting from the waist along the pocket bags and then down towards the hem. Stitch along the same line, starting from the waist, along the pocket bags, and then stitch the side seam towards the hem. Make the stitch 1 cm apart from the edge. When reaching this corner where the pocket bag joins the skirt, stitch until you reach the seam that joins the pocket bag with the skirt. Leave the sewing machine's needle in the fabric, lift the presser foot, then make a sharp turn, lower the presser foot and then stitch down to the hem. Let's reduce the pocket opening. Lay the skirt panel in a way that these previously made seams are exactly on top of each other. Pin at the notches. Stitch starting from the previously made seam up to the notch. Make the stitch on the skirt panel 1 mm or even less from the previously made seam. Make another stitch starting from the notch up to the waistline. Knit in the same allowances starting from the waist, along the pocket bags and then down towards the hem. Press the pocket bags and also press the side seams. Take the elastic band. The elastic's length should match the top's bottom edge. Make sure that you have marked the middle points of your skirt. I will mark these points on the elastic band as well. I am starting by folding the elastic on half and then I will use a marker to mark this point. Now fold the elastic on half again and mark the quarters. You will need to stitch the elastic band on your skirt by matching these markings. Stretch out the elastic while you are sewing, and once you will be finished, the elastic will gather the skirt. I am changing my sewing machine's regular stitch to a zigzag stitch. The width will be narrower than my elastic band. Stitch the elastic band on the wrong side of your fabric. You can pin the elastic to the skirt at those marking points, or you can work right away. The middle point markings on my top have disappeared. I need to renew them. I fold the top by matching the side seams and then I make markings with my marker on those edges. Now I can easily match the skirt with my top. Flip the skirt to the other side and match the skirt's right side with the top's right side. Start by matching the side seams and then match the points at the middle. In my case, the elastic band is very soft, that's why it stretched out after sewing. That's why my skirt is wider than the top's bottom edge, but that's okay because the top's lower edge is elastic as well. So when I will be stitching, I will slightly stretch the top's lower edge to match the skirt's length. I am using a serger because this seam should be elastic. If you don't have a serger, use one of those substitute sewing machine stitches. I highly recommend to use a tapestry needle or a needle with a big eye to hide the serger stitch inside the seam allowance. This way we will be sure that this seam will not come undone even after washing. While we are here, let's take out those hand stitches we made previously when fixing together both layers of the top. It's the perfect time to do a try-on and check whether we like the length of this dress. Remember that we still haven't done the hem, so there's a hem allowance. At the end, this skirt will be shorter. The final thing we need to do is to hem the skirt. I can recommend to use a double folded hem. It looks very neat. In my case, I have this crinkled fabric and I'm worried if I'm doing double folded hem that I will need to press it a lot to get it crisp and then I might lose this crinkled texture. That's why I am going to simply neaten the hemline and then fold the hem once and make a stitch 1.5 centimeters apart from the edge. This type of hem is also more beginner friendly. However, it is not as sophisticated because there is this neatening stitch. On the other hand, no one is going to see it except you. I know that there are measurement markings on my sewing machine, but I don't trust it. I still use a ruler. Give the final press and you have finished. Remember that you can get these and many more fabrics at the House of Textiles. Use code SR10 to get a 10% discount, as well as check out their YouTube channel. They are also posting some tutorial videos, and subscribe to our channels, and see you next time. Bye!